All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with a very large group of people. Usually, if you're a regular listener to the show, you might hear me talking to at most maybe three members of a band, four members of a band, and me. And right now on the screen we have at least six, and maybe more to come. So this one will be it'll be a little chaotic. So I think the best way to start this off is for everyone to introduce themselves individually, and then listeners can put a name to the voice because there are a lot of you here, and I think it's going to be a little bit chaotic trying to figure out who's who. So whoever wants to start at this point, really just who you are and then what you do as a part of this project.
Tristan, start.
Me? Okay. I'm Mr. Introvert. I am a musician since 2015. I specialize within hip hop and vaporwave music, and what I do in this band is I provide vocals.
Cool. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go. My name is Jeremy Lane. I'm one of the vocalists, and I help a lot with the structures and the buildings of our projects as a whole. Like usually, I'll be the one to assign artists to what parts of the songs, and then eventually what that song will eventually look like at the end of everything.
All right, I'll go next. I am J3 or James. I am, as of right now, the main producer of the group, and I also mix everything, so that includes vocals, beats, whatever it is. I am also a vocalist. I am on a few tracks. Basically just kind of the guy you go to if you need something mixed down or whatever it is you need.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Zach. I'm a producer for the group. I kind of like got the ball rolling. I kind of started the group, but yeah.
I'm Ryan. I'm the guitarist and vocalist. I got into music as a touring guitarist, and now I sit in my bedroom.
I'm Finn Ziegler. I also go by Cube Art. I do mainly like vocals in this group. I also like produce some stuff, make some beats. I've been doing this for a few years now, but yeah, that's about it.
Cool.
I forgot to mention, sorry. I've been making music. I've been drumming since I was 2 years old. So in 2004 I started drumming, and I started producing probably about 4 or 5 years ago, but just started to take it seriously.
Cool. And so, I mean, I know you have new music coming out, and we'll get into that because that's sort of the reason we're doing this now. But just to kind of put it into context, I mean, this podcast, it focuses primarily on Winnipeg and Manitoba artists. And I know that this group is from people from all over the place. So what is sort of the geography here? I know at least one of you is local to where I'm recording the show, but what's sort of the connection? Where are you all from, and how did this get put together? Because we've got a lot of people here, obviously.
I can answer that just from my side. So I think this group was originally started in like August, September, and how I joined was Zach.
Sorry, Caleb, of 2022, not this year.
2022.
It was 2022.
2022.
Oh, my fault.
That's important.
My fault. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. So I live the province over from Manitoba. And yeah, that's where I am at since we started this anyway.
Yeah, I'm just south of him in Michigan.
Okay.
I live in the Bay Area in California. Besides our social media manager, I'm the furthest away from everyone else. Everyone else is kind of central East Coast, so I'm all the way over there.
Yeah, no, I'm out in South Jersey, near Philly.
My boy.
Yeah, I'm all the way out in Tennessee, so I'm all the way East Coast.
So with all this, sort of variety of location, how did this come together? Because I mean I know a lot of you are sort of central in the continent here, but I mean there's a lot of miles between from city to city to city for all of you. How did this become a project where you worked on on this together? Did you know each other beforehand? Like, how does a group like this get introduced to each other even?
Honestly, I don't know if you are familiar with Brockhampton, but the leader of that group, Kevin Abstract, he put on at the time was a Kanye West forum back in like, I don't know if it was like 2010 or 2008, or I don't know the exact date, but basically just saying like, who wants to make a band? And so after the group broke up so many years later, someone made a Reddit, like a subreddit that was a homage to that.
Okay.
And I can't speak to everyone who joined, but for me personally, I needed another avenue of creativity. So I just happened to come across Zach's post, and I left a comment just saying like, if you need a vocalist, like I can do it, like I'm here. And I left his post was about a month from when I actually commented. And so I left a comment, and then nothing came of it. Like about 2 or 3 days later, I got a DM from him asking if I could send him solo stuff and just stuff like that. And I did. And then within that week, I was a part of the group, and I was a part of the initial creativity for the first album. We all don't really like to talk about, but I was there. that initial making of the original tape we all made together, and back when the group was arguably double the size we have now. But that's how I joined. Like I said, I can't speak for everybody, but that's how I came across, and that's how I stumbled onto Zach, Finn, and Tristan. At the time, Ryan and James were in the group, but that's who I became familiar with at first.
Well, yeah. To avoid having everyone explain their own personal origin story here, because that might take a while, I just like want to clarify this. So this is an online thing. You all met online somehow, whether it's through that forum or elsewhere, and decided to work together musically.
Yes.
Right.
And so, I mean, again, you have new music coming out, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But just this is fascinating to me, the idea that you're all so far apart. And so I guess like one of the things that I really like about doing a very locally focused show is that I talk to people from, whether it's a death metal band, a country singer, a jazz artist, whatever. And no matter what kind of music it is, there's always very regional sounds. There's always something about it that kind of implies Manitoba, implies Winnipeg. And I think that's the same for anywhere. I mean, you can get music from New York, it sounds like it's from New York. You get music from England, it sounds like it's from England, and so on, right? So do you think that this is kind of a question for anyone, really? Do you think that this group kind of is combining a bunch of regional sounds into one sort of larger, more nebulous thing? Because especially with something hip-hop influenced, that's a genre where kind of having that local sound is really important and is sort of a major thing. Does that come through, do you think, in the overall sound? Like all of these different regional vibes together?
Yeah, I think it really does. I've personally noticed a lot of different sounds from each of our vocalists that get onto a beat that I've made or that Zach has made, and kind of see what directions they go in. If they don't, like if there's a solid beat foundation and we don't know what we're kind of doing with the vocals yet, and we get two different vocals on at the same time, you can really hear the influence from both sides and where they're from, who they are as a person, kind of deal. And sometimes they underline, which is really nice, and it can make the whole song kind of have these different vibes, but it sounds amazing in my opinion.
Does anyone else have a... Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I was going to ask if anyone else had a comment on it, but you're about to. So.
Yeah, like to add on what James said, it's really cool because you can hear the influences of everybody. Not so much, definitely that regional sound, but you can hear the influence. Like at least for me personally, like I get a lot of my influence from the underground sound and alternative. Whereas someone like, Ryan, for example, gets a lot of his inspiration from actual like touring bands and like, I can't think of a band on top of my head, but he's been.
Yeah, I'm from the Ann Arbor jazz and funk scene.
Yeah.
I'm very much disconnected with the things that bring these guys together, honestly. It works.
Yeah, it does. And the beauty of what Ryan's saying is that, like, even when we want to do a song, for example, and we want to have Ryan on guitar solo or our vocals, like he's really good at just adapting to that sound and just finding his pocket in there, where a lot of us are just generally familiar with that and can do whatever it is we need to do on that beat. And then once I like what James said, the foundation is laid, that's when you start adding and piecing together smaller bits like a hook from Ryan and then backup vocals and just stuff like that. It's actually really, really a wonderful creative process when all of us are on that same page.
Is it fairly democratic as far as contributing to the songs, or are there certain people who, on a certain track will definitely take the lead and sort of this is their song that other people are contributing to, or is it really like an open thing where everyone's involved in the creation of everything?
I'd say this first album that's coming out in 6 days is kind of more of open to everyone, but the next album that we're working on is definitely more single person focused in a sense. Like we haven't really had a song in this album where there's one person who has done 2 verses on a song. Like someone has done, a verse and a hook, but they haven't had 2 verses. But in our next album we're working on right now, there are people who have 2 different verses on the same song, and that's something that we haven't done yet up until this point.
Cool.
And so
cool.
It just depends on what the album theme is and what we're kind of doing.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense for sure. So with this album that's coming out, I mean, by the time people hear this, it might already be out. Most likely it will be, and people can find it and check it out. But what is the process of recording when you're all spread out across the continent here like this? I mean, obviously the internet being how you met and how you sort of have connected, that's got to be part of it. You have the ability to, with our fancy new technology, you can send tracks back and forth and things like that. But what's sort of the process of putting together a record when everyone is separate and you're trying to collaborate on something like this?
The actual process, I think is really cool personally, just because a lot of the guys in the group trust me with coordinating who has this long of a verse and who goes here, who goes there, and a lot of the times the producers, so James and Zach, will have those timestamps, so then it's easier for me to be like, okay, let's have maybe 2 rappers and 1 singer, and then we can carry the whole song that way. It really just, for us anyway, it depends on the song and that beat. But usually a lot of the time when I assign, and if it's James making the beat, him and I are usually on that same page, and where we both kind of see the similar vision and how the song will turn out. And it very rarely does the song actually ever look like how we initially hear it. But to that, it's really cool to see, like, after I get Tristan's verse, or I get back Finn's verse, and we hear it and James mixes it on the beat, and we're like, okay, it's such a strong verse, how about we alter our lyrics or alter just the song order just to compensate for that verse, because it is so strong and it is so powerful in that aspect that we don't want to do it any injustice. We might as well just build on top of it. You know what I mean?
Are there alternate versions of a lot of these songs where other people's verses have been kind of put in and taken out and things like that?
Yes.
James, that's you. That's more you.
Yeah. There are quite a few songs on there where there were verses that were amazing by themselves but did not fit the song. And so there are going to be verses where they just unfortunately did not fit in the song. But there is a case with one of Mr. Introvert's verses. It was on this song from ages ago, from before I was even in the group, that was made, and it just so happened to be I got sent the vocals. I was going to do kind of a rough mix of it, see if we still wanted to do anything with it, which we didn't. Ended up being the same BPM as our song. I'll just say our song Bottle off of Rosebud, which is the album that's dropping. And I was like, okay, it's kind of funny, it's in the same BPM, I'm just gonna mess around a little bit, see if it fits. And it fit perfectly. Like it fit the vibe of the song so well. It goes hard, like it does everything we needed it to do, and it was not supposed to be for that song. Like that verse was probably about a year old, but yeah, it works.
Like to further what James is saying, like the newest single we just put out called Retrograde. Initially I was the first one on that beat, and I had this whole verse that was generally more sad than anything. It was just depressing, and not that it didn't like resonate with the beat, it just wasn't the vibe of the time. And by the time we got near the end of recording the whole album, that song in particular, everyone else's verses were such a different tone that I had to readjust my verse and re-record it and rewrite it. That so much so that James himself actually, he liked the original version so much more that he tabled it on until the end, and he had like a separate beat sort of breakdown. So like to speak to that, it's basically like if you come out with a strong enough verse and we can make it work, there's no way that we can't fit it in there somehow, as long as sort of we're all on that same page and we all agree that like that verse, like it works here and it works there, and whether or not it matches that vibe per se, it's more about the energy. I would say personally, it's if the energy's there and the passion's there, it can really make that song.
Well, that's it's interesting you mentioned the energy too, because in listening to what I could find online so far, which is the singles that you have out already, it definitely seems like it's high energy. I mean, a lot of the verses are the speed is pretty good. Like it's not, there's nothing lazy going on here. It seems like it's very hyped up and everything. And so for a band that can't play live, I mean, based on that kind of necessity.
Yeah, not yet though.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. How do you get that feel though, right? I mean, because like that's a big part of it, of having that kind of energy is the live element, especially with something that is very hip hop heavy. So how do you get that without having that ability to sort of be in the same room and be doing it in front of a crowd, or knowing that you're going to do it in front of a crowd?
Well, we a lot of the times we're in calls, and we're kind of getting the energy of that song is supposed to be, or otherwise if we can't make a call, we just kind of try and get the sort of basis of the song figured out already, so that when you start writing your verse, or when I start mixing it or something like that, I know exactly kind of what sound we're going for. I know exactly what person's going for what, who's going where, and it creates this weird energy that we all just work so well together somehow. Even though we've never met a day in our life, it's just like this is like my family, I consider, and it's crazy how well we work and fit together being online. It's like you said, it is kind of crazy to me, but it works. It works.
And sorry, just to further what James said, it was like he's also really good at, like, if as vocalists, if you have an idea for your verse, you have an effect you want, and you run it past him, he's very good at just tossing it in there, and he's really honest in the sense of like he'll listen to it by himself, and if it makes it to that final level, he'll let us know, okay, everyone, you got to peep this, or if it doesn't, he's very capable of saying, okay, you know what, like I see your vision, but as of this moment, it just doesn't work. It just won't fit for the final product, and that's the beauty of this creating process, and that weird energy he was talking about is we all beautifully work within it, and we're all beautifully critical of one another, that nothing ever feels personal when you talk to someone about the adjustment of their verse or their adjustment of the hook or whatever the fuck happens to be.
I mean, I find that energy through I love how our music just like grows over time. Like, I mean, this album that's coming out, we went through, I think, 16 versions of it, and just like over time, that energy just kept building, I felt like, and it just really, it really shaped the sound of the album, in my opinion.
Cool.
And yeah.
Well, we have another person who's just joined us. One of these, this group has gotten even larger. So maybe if you want to introduce yourself and just kind of explain what your role is with the group.
Boy.
Yes, sir.
What's up, everybody? As many of you know, I am Monk. I'm a vocalist. I rap, I sing, I play guitar, I make beats. I'm a jack of all trades, as they say.
Cool.
But it's great to be here, and I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you very much, Sam. Thank you.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, but this is interesting. It's fun. It's nice to get out of my comfort zone too, because like I said at the beginning, like I'm used to talking to very small groups of people, and this is a little chaotic, but it's working. So I guess like this is the worst question. Everyone hates answering this question, and it's because we're in an era where everything has a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre. But what do you call the type of music you play? Because I know hip hop is a big part of it. I mean, we've kind of established that already. People are rapping on it, but there's obviously instrumentation in it. There's production. There's all these different elements, and it's not. I mean, do you just consider it a rap group, or do you have sort of a better way of describing it if someone asks you?
As vague as alternative is as a genre,
it's extremely vague.
Kind of what we is, but it's extremely vague, and it's this weird nuance and very niche thing that we are. I can't really say exactly what genre we would typically be, because we have songs that are just pure hip hop, and then we have other songs that are barely hip hop, and so we're kind of just like Monk himself. We're kind of a jack of all trades in a sense, but we are very deeply hip hop rooted.
Yeah, that would be a beautiful way of putting it. It's like we've all talked about it before. It's not so much keeping ourselves in a box. We don't like like I said, like hip hop is the root of everything we do. That is just sort of where we planted our seeds and we kind of grew like individually and as a group together. But like I said, there are definitely songs off Rosebud that you hear that may lean heavy into industrial kind of genre. Then we have another song that's more boom bap era. We have you know what I mean? So our goal isn't so much to be like they're a hip hop, they're a boom bap group, they're a industrial kind of group. Our kind of goal is just they're a hip hop group, and if you like what you hear, awesome. And if you don't, that's fine. But just because you hear one album that's in one format or one style does not guarantee that it will carry over to the next album. Like our very first album, Rosebud, I say it's very industrial with different elements in hip hop that bleed into it. And you listen to all of Rosebud, you're like, okay. And then the next album, which we're almost pretty much done, it's very like I said from the start, it's very like Gorillaz oriented. A lot of like instrumentations, a lot of the beats aren't rooted in just pure like synths and synth drums, and a lot of it is a Monk on guitar or James doing his own type of thing with live instrumentation, especially with drums. So a lot of it, that shit, it's kind of like I said, it's kind of hard to describe that genre because I know every band says you can't box us in, but our goal genuinely is to not be boxed in because we all love so many different types of hip hop. We all love so many different kinds of music that we eventually want to try to touch upon a little bit of everything if we can.
Well, I guess having all of these members from everywhere probably helps too, right? From different
yes,
immensely.
Yeah, the way I try to look at it is we're a Swiss Army knife, right? A Swiss Army knife is, of course, a knife, that knife being hip hop in this off-the-cuff metaphor. But like a Swiss Army knife, you can open cans with it, you can open bottles with it, it's got scissors, it can do all the things, but at the end of the day, the root of it is still a knife.
Right. That's an interesting analogy. Yeah.
That's
sounded better in my head. I kind of stumbled on that on my
analogy, brother.
It's all good.
Well, like we kind of established earlier, this new record is going to be out by the time people hear this, and so how do you promote something like this, given the way that the group is put together? I mean, you can't, like we sort of said earlier, you can't play shows yet because you're not all in the same even the same country necessarily. So how does that work? I mean, how do you get the record? Especially because we also just determined that your whole sound is pretty nebulous. It's got the hip hop roots, but it's got all these other aspects. So this is a thing that everyone needs to worry about now with the internet and streaming and the way that people consume music, is that you have to be marketing yourself as well as just making the creative stuff. So how do you sell something like this with so many different elements coming into it and not having sort of a firm location, I guess?
That's a wonderful question. I think the beauty of it is like I've been doing music since 2020, like early 2019, late 2019, sorry. So a lot of us, I think, we've all amassed. While I'm just gonna use Instagram for example. While a lot of us have just amassed followers from being in high school and going to college and stuff like that, that there have been an abundance, I think, of followers for everybody that have followed purely just for music. So when you take that element and you say, okay, I know you guys follow me for, like personally, I make alternative kind of rap music. That when you say, okay, well, I have a project coming out with something that is a little different, naturally each person sort of kind of following a crowd, well, whether or not they gravitate or like it or not, it's not so much the point. It's they see it and they'll view it. So it's not so much as it is like booking yourself or making yourself look better. It's trusting your following, and enough that your following will follow you where you go, because obviously they follow you for a reason. So the best, exactly. So the best you can really hope for is that they'll follow you, they'll trust you, and hopefully they'll like the music. And if not, no big deal. But at the same time, you're going to amass new followers from that.
I think another thing that helps is reaching out to other artists, whether they're in our genre or not, just other people who are coming up as well and building connections that way. So not even like, hey bro, check out my mixtape, but just like actively going out of your way to find new music and new artists and building the connections that way. I find that is the best way of getting promotion for yourself. It's just building this, internet, parasocial relationship with somebody who makes music themselves, because then once you start checking it out and giving feedback, whether it's critical or not, they're going to follow you back, check out your stuff, and they're, 9 times out of 10, they're going to return the favor. So I've found that to be the best way for me personally as an underground artist to reach out.
That's some real shit. That's real shit.
I'd like to piggyback off of Monk. So I do music myself too, my own solo stuff. So I've already built some pretty big connections with some people. I don't think I can expose their name, but I have some connections that I'd like to bring from my stuff over to Facetape stuff. So cool. I think that's a good way of bringing it over.
So with all of these different members and everything like that, how does, now that when people hear this, Rosebud will be out and they can hopefully check it out in all the various platforms people find music, but how does someone find out more information about what you're doing as a group? Is there a collective place online people can, whether it's hearing the songs, finding out about upcoming stuff you're doing, things like that? Is there any kind of social media for the group itself?
We have a Discord right now. Unfortunately, we're not, like, the whole group, I mean by this, we're not as active as we should be. A lot of us are kind of hoping for the community to interact among itself, but that general band of fans, we're trying to, at least from my point of view anyway, we're trying to combine all our audiences, and just whatever ones like this stuff and like what we're doing will hopefully stick around, and because our goal is to drop this next album we're working on, not Rosebud, the one after that, not too long after the fact, so we can keep that that momentum. But otherwise, it's just our Discord. Really, you can follow us individually. We have a group Instagram too. Again, we're not that active on it as we should be, but the Instagram is just Facetape Official for those who want to just come and check out to see what we're dropping, what we got coming up next, and everything. But otherwise, it's definitely a group effort. I think James, he. You gotta trust your followers and your friends, right? Because you gotta understand that not everyone is gonna want to view your story time and time again to see the same thing promoted. But I think everyone, at least in call right now, is pretty comfortable with themselves and can put, like, none of us, I don't think any of us really like doing it, but we're pretty okay with, like, just combining all of our fan bases. Like I know Ryan's got his own, I know Tristan's got his own, I know Finn has his own, and while they're expecting a certain sound, like, if you can just show up for the artist, that's kind of what we're hoping for.
I do want to mention as well that we also do have a Facetape Bandcamp, along with the Spotify and everything else. So you can also personally support us and follow and get new updates to the Bandcamp as well.
Awesome. Cool.